Would I consider Polkadot as a sleeping giant despite its pretty massive market cap right now when it comes to DOT, its native token, at around 7 billion? Arguably, even though nothing I say is financial advice, I would say yes because I think that when I take a look at the market sector that Polkadot is focused on, I think it's arguably number one within that specific niche, and it doesn't really have, I think, a competitor that could really, I think, overtake it, maybe let's say during this cycle. And when it comes to DOT, at the idea of maybe $50, that's still on my mind, and I'm going to talk about that later on in the video, but I first want to explain what I mean by Polkadot, again, like what I just mentioned before. Now, if I take a look at Polkadot, it's focused on connecting blockchains together. It's focused on something called interoperability. If I take a look at that sector, arguably number two within this space, I would say is maybe something called Axlar. But Axlar is way smaller than Polkadot, doesn't have that much attention when compared to this. Don't get me wrong, I still believe in it, but then it's just not really comparable in terms of kind of the size, kind of the popularity, right? At least currently. So I find that pretty unique. If I take a look at it, I think a lot of things could hypothetically benefit from interoperability. Like for instance, there's many blockchains out there, many networks, but because some of them are independent of one another, they cannot freely send data and value to each other, meaning that hypothetically they do lack interoperability. So again, what is Polkadot focused on? Connecting blockchains together. It's kind of actually focused on a pretty, I would say, important thing, arguably. And let's not forget too, Polkadot has something called Kusama. Kusama is quite essentially a canary network to Polkadot. Basically, in simple terms, projects that usually want to launch on Polkadot, they're going to start off with Kusama first, and then maybe some of them eventually later move on to Polkadot. They don't have to though. I mean, we take a look at Moonriver, which is on Kusama. But you know what? It's a good kind of funneling system to kind of introduce some developers, arguably, I would say, to Polkadot because it's supposedly easier to make changes on when it comes to Kusama. It's supposedly cheaper to rent building space as well on Kusama when compared to Polkadot. So it's pretty cool. I like the whole vibe when it comes to Polkadot. Now, at the idea of, let's say, $50 when it comes to DOT, I get it. It's around a 10x from here. And some people might be thinking, okay, why would you care about that? Well, what is Bitcoin and Ethereum going to do, let's say, arguably in the next 6 months? If Bitcoin went to 300 grand, that's less than a 3x from here. If Ethereum went to 10 grand, that's less than a 3x from here as well. I just kind of feel like, you know what, maybe hypothetically a 10x is not the best thing of all time. And how can it, right? It's around a 10x, but then I'm just saying, like, it doesn't seem like that bad to me, especially when I know some of my friends out there would be happy at the idea of Bitcoin at 300 grand. Don't get me wrong, I would, because hypothetically, it would be maybe pretty good for the altcoin space. But again, some people that I know out there, they only believe in that. And then at the 300 grand point, they're already pretty happy. So if I take a look at less than a 3x from here, I'm not that excited with that. But let's say around a 10x, I don't think it's that disappointing for me either, but only time will tell. Now, at the price of $50, right, arguably, considering current circulating supply, at that point, market cap would be around 80 billion. I mean, we saw BNB reach over 100 billion in market cap back in 2021. And I would say that this is actually more revolutionary than, let's say, the BNB chain, for instance, even though I'm not necessarily saying that, it's going to be bigger, but it just seems like this is hypothetically trying to achieve something pretty interesting, right? But even besides all that, sometimes people like to say, oh, but then when are things going to peak? Well, whether or not DOT has that next leg up, which we kind of see a pretty good, little okay recovery right now, not really much in the grand scheme of things, but it's still pretty okay. Whenever there's that true next leg up, hypothetically, if we ever do see a fully fledged up altcoin season during this cycle, let's say whether or not it happens next month, or let's say in somewhere December, right, November, or January of next year, February of 2026, March of 2026, whenever that timeline is, all I know is that I can only control myself, so I'm going to be dollar cost averaging, holding, and just waiting, and that's pretty much it. And this is why I think Polkadot is a sleeping giant. I mean, pretty much, arguably number one within its space, and it's actually a pretty important thing to be focused on, again, interoperability. This is just something I just want to be dollar cost averaging and just staying patient with, and that's pretty much it, but I'm still very excited. However, only time will tell. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.